Okay, I think we are good to go. So once again, it is a pleasure to be here today with all of you. So again, my name is Miriam Lazarte. I'm the CEO of LatAm Startups. And today we're finishing this online bootcamp with the last session about angel investment. I would like again to thank the different partners that we have for this bootcamp. Bright Immigration, OCL Law, from Peru, the City of Toronto, and a startup here, Toronto. So for this last session, we are talking about angel investment in general in Canada. We are talking about some aspects, under COVID-19 and all that. I imagine that everybody has questions around that. Please just go ahead and ask your questions in the chat box. Again, our community manager, Perla Campos, will be here to coordinate those questions. And I'll be pausing in some of the slides in case that you want to ask a question in the middle of the presentation. That's okay. We are looking forward to hear your comments after these online sessions. So we certainly are going to send the recording sessions. By the way, Perla, you're recording, right? Yeah, all good. So we are send you the recording sessions of all the presentations from immigration, incorporation, and angel investment. And along that, we are going to send a small survey just to ask for your comments about the online sessions. This is the second time that we do Canada 101 with the same topics, but for the future, we would like to know, more about you guys and what do you think about, these topics in particular with Canada. And we hope, certainly we hope that all of you are enjoying or at least getting more knowledge about Canada in the aspects that we were talking today. So if anyone has questions after the webinar, we would like to receive those questions also, through our email, contact@latamstartups.org. So please, just send us a note if you have more comments or questions. We're happy to always respond all of them. And Perla here will be muting your microphone in case that, there is someone with a microphone open. But no more than that, we are going to start this session. So first, I'd like to let you know some of the aspects that you may need to know to approach to an angel investor in Canada. So later I'll pass information about angel investment under COVID-19 and some numbers of the ecosystem previous COVID-19. So that will cover, some of what was, our ecosystem previous COVID-19 and what is happening right now. And just to give you a little bit of context of what has been the ecosystem so far, for those that don't know, the Toronto Kitchener-Waterloo, which is the area where we are actively located right now, is the second largest tech corridor in the world. So we are the second largest after Silicon Valley. We also have the major innovation centers and incubators and accelerators in the city and in the country in general. We have a lot of activity. For example, we have the largest innovation center in the world in square meters, which is Mars Discovery District. We have the #1 business incubator in the world, linked with university, which is TMC Ryerson. And we also have the largest IoT center in the world in square meters, which is Catalysis 137 in Waterloo. And because of that, because also the talent that we have, in particular in the city and, in Ontario in general, this become a very, very attractive part of North America for angel investors in general. So I'm going to talk about Canadian angel investors, but just to let you know, there are angel investors that come to to Canada in particular to look for deals as well. So this is just for general information. So some of the characteristics of the angel investors in Canada. Some are similar to angels in the States, but for this particular session, we are going to have in consideration some of the things that we have seen that can be particularly different from our regions like Latin America or other parts of emerging markets in the world. So angel investors in Canada are usually not just wealthy people, but they have a lot of experience in areas that they are investing. So this means that if you approach to an angel investor in fintech and your company is in green tech, chances are that you are not going to get much response from an angel. Angels invest in what is their expertise. So we have seen this as a differentiation from other angels in emerging markets, because many times what we see in other angels is that they come from wealthy families, but they don't perhaps have expertise in certain technologies. In here, they have expertise in certain technologies, and they certainly want to, invest in that expertise that they have. So that's why they are very, very, let's say, picky about the deals that they take, because they want to put their expertise in work when they do that. So many times angels become mentors before they invest in companies. This is very normal, and sometimes this is a way to evaluate how are the dynamics with the teams and how coachable teams can be. So also angels invest many times in referrals from other angels, incubators, accelerators, or innovation centers in the market. This is also important for you to know, because many times startups tend to try to contact angels in a cold call, and this is this can be a particular let's say challenging situation if the angel doesn't know you or doesn't know if you are referred by other institutional angel they know. This is because they receive too many requests and inquiries to see business plans or to see decks, and they all the time get to get invitations to get a coffee and to have 15 minutes conversation. So just for you to know, the best way to approach true angels is through other networks that you may become belong to. This is the best way to approach to them. Angels also tend to invest in companies that are geographically close to them. That means that there are little chances that angels in Canada will invest in companies that are not located in the country. This is a question that we get all the time. What happens if my company is not located in Canada? The best chances that you have is that if the company is located, for example, in the US or Canada, you may have some chances to get a conversation with an angel. If the company is located outside of Canada, then it becomes problematic for angels, because they want to mentor the company, and the distance is a problem. Now, you will say, well, under COVID-19, there is not much to do. Yes, that's right, but then it will be a certain situation that will happen in there that will, that the angels will still be focusing in what is nearby them. So that's important for you to know. In compared with angel investors in the USA, angel investors in Canada tend to be more conservative and with their decisions, but they are taking more risk than angels, for example, from emerging markets. For certain emerging markets, in particular, I'm talking about Latin America, because that's our main part of the community. We have also startups from other places, like from India, Pakistan, Morocco. We have had the opportunity to work with them. But in our particular case, we have seen an angel from emerging markets. They tend to be conservative, and the way that they make deals is certainly different than how they make deals here in Canada. Angels here don't have a regulation per se, but there are groups with rules and standards in the industry. Some of those groups are NACO, Keiretsu Forum, Jerk Angels, and other that are reliable groups with different types of angels. This is important because somehow this actually helps to put together a regulation that is not meant to be, a government regulation, but more like the group regulation, that is accepted for most of the angels that are in the network. And now you also certainly need to have an exit strategy in mind to approach to angels in Canada. You cannot just ask for money and negotiate a percent of the company. You have to answer how you're going to return that money. And many times angels are expecting a return 7 to 10 times of what they invested in a period of 4 or 5 years. So if you want to learn more about that particular part, we have a YouTube channel. You can look for LatAm Startups in YouTube, and you will see different conversations that we have with angels in the past. We usually in our annual conference have the opportunity to have a conversation with the angel investor of that year or the previous year. We also have had VCs, and then you will have more insights about the way how they think and how they act in the market. I see that there are some questions now from Tanya. Is there a particular preference in terms of industry, technology right now to invest? Yes, and I'm going to cover that in the next slide, so that will answer your question. Ana Inez, is Montreal included in this corridor area of startups that you mentioned? Do you think that the characteristics there are different from the IT industry? Yes, actually it's covered, Ana, and there is a very powerful corridor between Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal, and you will see that in the next slides. Quebec certainly has a different type of environment, and they have different type of regulations. But Quebec is also the artificial intelligence hub in Canada. So there is a lot of movement going on there for angel investors. In particular, used to live in Montreal when I arrived here in Canada, and we have certainly different contacts in there. But what is Ontario, Quebec is really very powerful for investment, and I will go in deep in the next slides. Martu, do angels need to have a minimum wealth regulated like accredited investors in the US to have invested investments in startups? Yes, there is some that are accredited, and there are some that they don't require to be accredited. And in the US happens the same. You may know the accredited ones, but in the US also have the very informal type of investor that doesn't require to be accredited. In Canada, CRA, which is the agency that regulates this part, can give a certification to an angel depending of how much funding they have for themselves and funding to invest in companies. So last time I checked, they have to have enough funding at least to have between 8 to 16 investments a year. But it's not a regulation per se. It's kind of like a standard in the industry that they can have. To go more in depth with this part, I perhaps can send you later what is about accredited investors in Canada, but you are going to find both of them. So I will continue with the next slides and then pause again for next questions if you have next questions. So go for the next one here. Okay, so for many people, I think it will be important to know under COVID-19 what is the situation. So under COVID-19, angel investors are doing their best in Canada to help with the recovery of the economy. The government of Canada has helped a lot to different type of entrepreneurs, employees, and people affected by the pandemic. This help is basically money that is not refundable, loans with no interest or very low interest, and some of other funding that basically almost every day is announced or available for people in Canada. But of course, there is still a global critical situation, and we know that global basis, there is a recession coming up. Angels in Canada seems to be focused in their own portfolios as they are trying to support companies that they have already invested. And it's expected that the economy continue to reopen in the recovery. The angels will come back to invest in different type of companies. But for now, it's well said that Angels groups continue doing sessions online and presenting opportunities of different startups that they are already in contact pre-pandemic. But that means also that the situation to become, funded by an angel at this point here in Canada is unlikely, at least this year. They are trying to focus in the recovery, and there is a nice article that was just made a few days ago about that, and you will see here in the low part of the presentation, the article now is kind of like a you cannot see everything, but during the we are going to send all these presentations after the webinars. There you go, you can see. I cannot put the cursor there, but anyway, you can see there is this link, and then you can read more about the COVID-19 related with angel investment right now in Canada. And to be honest with you, this is a situation that is not just in Canada, as you probably all know. The US and other countries in the world are facing the same situation. I believe in angel investment is pretty much similar. So many people are going to be focusing in that part in particular. So, okay, going to the next slide, we are going to talk about pre-COVID-19. So pre-COVID-19, the angel investment sector has been growing in deals and getting more structured thanks to organizations like NACO and Canada101. And you will hear me talk a lot about NACO here. You can see also in the bottom part of my presentation, there is a link going to nacocanada.com. And NACO basically is an organization that has around 3,000 angels as part of the organization. They are also the organization that deals with the government of Canada in regards of a study visa program. They have as members incubators, accelerators, and other angels, either independent angels or angel groups. So NACO is an important organization here. We are members of NACO, and all the information we are provided is part of NACO because it's the largest one that we have in the market. Canada101 is another one that also is the, as we know, is the largest organization, angel organization in the world, with different chapters in different countries in the world. As per the last report from NACO, since 2013, deals have increased 90%, and the amount of investment has increased also 189% over the same period. So in early stage, angels usually invest in between $50,000 to $150,000. That's for a small ticket in early stage. It's estimated that Canada has had between 20,000 angels to 50,000 angel investors. Many angels have recognized that the value of working together is powerful. So this is why there are several angel groups in which individual angels invest together in the same type of business. So you will see again, as per perhaps one of the questions that was there, that angel investors actually, they can be accredited, not accredited, they can work alone, they can work in groups, they can work, like there are syndicate angels as well, that they perhaps are individuals that go with co-investment, and that also happen, and we are going to talk about that in the next slides as well. So there is no, again, a particular rule in here, but that was the situation pre-COVID-19, and we expect that the situation post-COVID-19 will recover those numbers and actually increase even more in the next years. So, Okay, so angel groups in Canada have emerged for different reasons. There is a need for greater financial resources to make larger investments, including follow-on investment, and this reduces actually vulnerability for them. VC funds, for example, have shifted their focus to larger investments, and this is why more angel groups have become available at this point. The opportunity to spread their investment more widely, achieving diversification and access to groups, skills, and knowledge for evaluating investment opportunities is another reason why we have more angel groups at this point. Angels groups offer the attraction of superior deal flow and the opportunity to learn from more experienced investors, and angel groups have developed efficient routines for handling investment inquiries. So it's important for you to know also that angel investors, there are different groups and they are collaborating each other because Toronto in particular and some other cities in the country have become very attractive with different deals. Either are international startups that are coming to the city, larger or medium-sized corporations that are coming to the city as well, investing in the ecosystem, and this is why we have more and more angel investment groups, more people that want to really help the ecosystem to grow and to be competitive in global basis. So you will see more of this, and with the time is passing, perhaps it will be a stronger regulation for angel investors. There is certainly in the US there is not a stronger regulation in compared with Canada. It's basically the same dynamics, but the type of angel can differ, depending of what is in the market. I'm not sure if there is any other questions at this point, or shall I continue with the presentation?
We don't have any more questions in the chat, but somebody wants to ask anything at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's okay. We are going to continue because in the next slides, I'm going to continue with more numbers and more of how is the situation right now of previous COVID-19. So here, angel groups can potentially organize themselves in a variety of ways. So there are two ways that they are organized: as a non-profit structure and as a for-profit structure. As you can see here, maybe this is surprising for most of you, but most of angel investors, 67%, are organized as a non-profit organization, which usually is not what you think about angels. They may go for profit, but the tendency is to go for non-profit, and then for profit is just 27%, and then there are some other different structures that are not highly representative in here. So those are the two options that they are looking at this point. Now, how many deals are they accept? So most startups are not financially ready for angel groups. Angels can be particular about the deals that they are looking for in the market, and also the readiness of the company. When a company is rejected, that doesn't mean that they don't have a future opportunity to get investment. Sometimes angels can become mentors and guide the company up to the point that the company will be ready for investment. Angels can also guide the company in other type of funding that may be more suitable for a particular time that the company is facing. As you can see in this graphic, in 2018, angel groups received 6,500, I will say 6,500, 100 approaches, for funding, and just 17% of the business approaching to these groups were selected for a presentation with investors. And half of those entrepreneurs continue into a phase where the due diligence was happening, and then 88% of those in due diligence passed to the next level. But at this point, just 6.4% of the startups that presented a deck or a reach out angels actually got a deal with them. So you can see this is, this has been, this particular image that I see here has been like this for years. It has been always the case that, people are introduced to angels, either they introduce themselves or through a referral, but very little of them actually get a deal. And why is that? Many people usually says, well, the angels are not taking really risk sometimes in getting new deals or things like that. But the reality is that, as startups, as entrepreneurs, there are so many, there's so much funding in the market right now in regards of grants and loans in the market. So usually what angels wants to see is that you have, exceeded all the opportunities to get funding in the market, because basically if there is free money in the market that the government or no government institution is giving you, why are you looking for more money or for more debt at this point from an angel? At least you are really growing extremely fast and you require, even more funding. But if you can demonstrate that, you have actually got some other deals in the market, not from angels, but, from grants, loans, that, you have got all the opportunities that are required in the market, then they will take a look of, what is that you need at this point, and if you really need all the money that you said that you're going to need. So I'm going to the next slide here. So in this graphic, you can see the evolution of the deals over the years. In many cases, angel groups invest alongside other investors as part of a larger syndicate. This gives business significant financial runway to scale up. The average deals from angel investors plus co-investors have been increasing in the recent years. And you can see here, the last one is 2018, because this year in 2020 usually comes the report from 2019. But you can see, since 2017 has been like a really, increase in the deal sizes, but also, from syndicated partners, it has been even more. And when I mention syndicate partners is when an angel is co-investing with an angel group or another angel. So that is increasing actually the amount that they can invest in a company, and it's becoming more important for startups at this point. So go for the next slide now. So in Canada, angels report using a variety of investment instruments, and the most common use is convertible debentures. As you can see in the graphic, is 37%, and common shares is 36%. Preferred shares around 23% of investment. You want to learn more about, this type of, instruments to invest. I will also encourage you to go to NACO website, and you will see there, more like how in concept is this part. So I know now that perhaps there are a few questions on that. So
yes.
Okay. So what are the names of the organizations that provide grants for startups in Canada? For example, Uruguay is ANI. Yeah, there are several organizations that provide, funding in Canada, from federal level to provincial level to local level. So the best way for you to know about those funding is to go to an app that the government of Canada has that is called Canada Business, or Business Canada, otherwise. But you will see there that there is, a list of opportunities to get grants in the market. There are different sources and there are different institutions. You have FEDEP, IRAP, you have OCE in the case of Ontario, for example. There are so many institutions, even some incubators and accelerators, they may have little grants. There are also private institutions. Startup Canada sometimes give grants, and we're talking here about very small grants up to very, very big grants. I'm probably mentioning something in the next slides about the number of grants that we have in the market, but certainly there are many. What is a nonprofit investor looking for in a startup if it's not for financial gain? Well, that's a good question for an investor. But usually when you see investors here in the market, they already got a lot of money. They want to invest in companies to help the ecosystem, to return the favor to the ecosystem. This is very common. I see, the question mark in many people when they see so many people wanted to help in here. But the reality is that if your company grow, you will provide jobs and you will pay taxes. And that's very important for the ecosystem. So people help you here to grow because of those reasons. Now, for angels, it may be a reason to reinvest in the same type of community that they have. As a nonprofit, we are nonprofit too. As accelerators and incubators, 80% are nonprofits. So when we are nonprofits, it's because we want to reinvest in the same community. So it may be a case that they want to reinvest in the same type of portfolios that they have, or at least if they get more startups, they can reinvest on them. Carlina, yes, we are going to send the presentation as well, the recording, so that you will have it later. So I'm going to continue for the next slide. So here is one of the questions that we got from somebody in the audience about the sectors that they are investing. So the sectors that dominates, as you can see, is the ICT sector with 45%, and then life science with 20%. Now, ICT covers a lot of subsectors. So don't just, think, oh, ICT is internet, communications technology. So really is a lot of sectors, subsectors on that. But there is also a tendency in the market where ICT deals are lower than life science, for example. So ICT can have tickets up to, from $75K to $161,000, while life science can be, tickets for early stage $200,000 up to $325,000. So you could see here, the tendency for the last years has been always ICT and has been always life science. And it's increasing also in other type of sectors that, can be, for example, IoT. We're seeing a lot of tendency in IoT, VR, to become part of this. But again, like a VR or IoT can be, part of ICT. So it's very difficult to know exactly what they mean with other sectors. There is also same tendency for energy and clean tech. You can see there is not much of a movement in regards of those particular sectors. But ICT covers a lot, so it will depend of the angel that you are talking with. How are you going to communicate with him at the type of company that you have? At least saying that it's just ICT is not useful. You have to know your subsector and subsector after that, if in case that you have a vertical that you are expert on.
There is a question from Rani.
Yes. Okay, let me see.
Yes.
Can a funding of less than 25K qualify for a startup visa? That's from Pranit. Pranit, I'm not sure if I understand your question. It depends, you know, for a startup visa requires for you to have enough funding to work and live in Canada for up to a year. And, you know, that also requires that you may have to hire a team. So if it's just 25K, it's not going to be good enough. What is the best way to reach out an angel investor? Well, I mentioned it at the beginning of the presentation. It's better if you're associated with an accelerator, incubator, or innovation center, or through any other angel. Doesn't mean that you cannot approach an angel, you know, in a cold call, but you have to consider that there are many people approaching to them. Also, normally we will do that, you know, also through events, but still it's like a, you know, a first type of presentation. If he doesn't know exactly, you know, who you are, or you know, who refer you to be part of, you know, his portfolio, it will be difficult. Now, even though with a referral, you know, there is some time that you have to spend in building a relationship with angels. There is no such a thing that you're going to get a check after the second or third meeting. That's a myth, and that's a myth in Silicon Valley too. That's not even happening in Silicon Valley. There is a time when you have to actually go through conversations and meetings and knowing your team. They usually invest a lot more in the team than in the solution, because they believe more in the team developing that solution at the end. So the best approach is try to become a part of a group that at the end can be making those introductions, and also try to be ready for when somebody introduces you to an angel, because they are going to expect that you have already traction in North America. At least here, that's the situation. So is there a minimum funding required for qualify for a startup? Pranit, I'm not sure if you are talking about a startup visa program, or because to qualify as a startup, like there is no like minimum funding, but it's for a startup visa program. You can go to the government website. They are going to explain you there that you have to have enough revenue. You have to have a revenue between $250,000 up to $9 million in global sales. That doesn't mean that pre-revenue startups are not qualified, but it's a big topic, because you know, if you are not getting clients, for example, in about a year, sometimes depending of the sector, that may be a thing that happen, then you know, you need to have your own funding. And North America, in particular Toronto, is a very expensive city. So that's why, you know, the government is asking to have enough funding for you to make the investment and try to get, you know, into the business deal. The startup visa program, guys, I know many people are looking for, you know, ways to immigrate to Canada, but the startup visa program is an acceleration program. And as an acceleration program, we are concerned more about the type of business that you're bringing, more than your legal status in Canada. Because legal status, as you could see in the first in the first call we have this morning, there are many ways to get a legal status in Canada. It doesn't have to be through a startup visa program. But if you really have a case that you have a technology company that can be a global startup that can grow fast, those are the type of companies that the government of Canada wants to see here, and those are the type of companies we want to help too. So we help companies from pre-revenue up to, you know, again, $9 million in revenue, but we care a lot about the type of business that you are bringing to the country. So that's one of the main concerns for us. So finally, last slide here. Here. So, and in the meantime, while I'm talking with this about this slide, you guys also can, post more questions if you have more, because then the next slide is about questions. So where investors are investing in Canada. Ontario and Quebec dominate this part, accounted for 86% of the investment, compared with 11% in British Columbia and 3% in Western Canada. This means that the corridor Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal gets more of the investment. And this was one of the comments that I made to a question that we have. You can see here the number of investment per region, and you can see also the amount of investment per region, and both are concentrated basically in Ontario and Quebec. And now, this may be a little bit surprising for some people because, if you see the Canada map, and where is, for example, Vancouver, that is in the west part of Canada. Vancouver is actually very close to Silicon Valley. It's 2.5 hours in a flight. And usually deals grow in that way. You don't see companies necessarily growing from Vancouver to Toronto or Toronto to Vancouver, but you see more like a Vancouver going to Seattle or San Francisco or the other cities in the West, because the type of business behavior is more similar in that area. And then what is Toronto and Montreal are closer to cities like New York, Washington, Philadelphia, Chicago, Boston. So we are 1.5 hours from those cities in a flight. So again, business deals usually go in that direction too. So it may be because it's New York, and New York is the financial hub, basically. Maybe, that is attracting more deals. Certainly, Toronto has a lot of, negotiations and deals going on with New York. And Toronto has one thing that is very important for the ecosystem in North America, is that Toronto is also a financial hub. We are a financial hub, and we are also a technology hub. So it has that perfect combination, that good combination between technology and financial situation. And I think that's why you'll see most of the deals happening in there. So I'm going to the next slide, saying that in general, investment is becoming more and more active, even under COVID-19. We are expecting that angel investment sector recovers soon, but for sure it will be a challenge, in the next year or two because of the pandemic, same as in any other country. The good news is that since last month, the different regions in Canada and in general the government is focusing in the recovery of the economy. And in the meantime, we are advising companies the same as prior COVID-19, that there are many funding opportunities in the market as grants and loans. And those that, for example, go to usually our boot camps, not this boot camp because this is one-day boot camp, but in normal boot camps that we do, they learn about grant opportunities. And certainly for the innovation sector, we have over 100 opportunities to get grants and loans in the market in different areas. It's not just, there are areas from research and development to marketing and commercialization to scale up, to hire people. There are different type of grants in the market. And during the, bootcamp in September, we certainly are going to talk about that with the companies that get selected for that specific bootcamp. So now I know there are more questions in here. So how can LatAm Startups help us and indicate us to investors? Again, as an incubator accelerator, we are linked with investors. We are part of the NACO as, the Angel Capital Organization. We certainly make introduction for startups that are in our community, and that we know that they are having the necessary traction to enter to the market. This is important because you can, basically burn bridges if you introduce yourself to an investor without to be prepared. So we make sure that you guys are prepared before you are reaching out investors. More important than investors, I think, most international entrepreneurs should be looking for grants and loans. That's the best way at the beginning while you are getting traction, because it's difficult to get traction immediately. With the pandemic, the investors from angels have been reduced. Yes, it has been reduced, and it will continue to constrain, I think, for the whole year and perhaps for the next semester. They are focusing right now in their own portfolios and in helping the companies that they have invested already. So again, will be much better way to get grants in the markets and loans without interest or low interest in the market. What options or choices for some lending do you have? So Mauricio, we do have 3 types of programs. Basically, is in steps that we do this. We have a validation program that is for 2 weeks, and then companies are basically putting together assumptions about the market and about the product and how it will work here. It's a very intense boot camp that happens usually in spring and fall. And currently we have open applications for that. Once they finish a bootcamp program, they can continue in soft landing program if they feel like it's a good opportunity to continue on that. Soft landing program goes up to 3 months, and we're expecting the companies to start putting together in action what they have seen in the bootcamp. We work in marketing strategies, sales strategies, and also incorporating companies in Canada. So, and the third step is if the board of directors, accept a company to start a visa program. Not all want to apply for a start a visa program. Some of them want to. But if it's that the case, the board of directors will analyze each case, and then we are working with those companies in a startup visa program to get funding and to get much more sales in the market, because it's a very challenging and difficult step for international companies to be integrated in the ecosystem. So that's our expertise. So we are medtech startup, but we need to pass a regulatory to generate revenue. We have initial investment and soft commitment. Can we apply? Yes, you can always apply, Amir. And once you apply, we are happy to see your case and give you a very honest, review of what do you have and what opportunities really you have to enter to the program. At the beginning, or in other calls, I have mentioned we get between 4 or 5 inquiries per day about our program, and we get a lot of applications. But we receive in between 15 to 20% of the applications for the boot camps, especially for the boot camp, which is the first stage of the program. And in the boot camp, sometimes we figure out which companies can really have more opportunities to continue. So you're more than welcome to apply, and we will have perhaps an interview if we see that your company has a good fit for the market. So guys, I'm not sure. Okay, Pranit has another question. Does a combination of service and product have higher or lower possible of investment that only products of the company? I don't think that's relevant at all, Pranit. What is relevant is how much traction do you have in the market. It's not just about the opportunity that you have. An investor will look at your company, and they will like to see how much sales are you going to have in the market. If that combination help you to provide more sales, then good, you should do it. But this is when you're approaching to angels, you have to approach with really strong facts about your company. This is not about assumptions. You are not presenting assumptions about your company. You are presenting facts and projections. And that's important for you to know before you apply or introduce yourself to angels. Anna, what are the industries that work close with IT in Toronto? And I guess fintech is the one, yeah. But there are others. You can mention, yes, IoT is one that is certainly increasing more and more, like things with VR, and recently EdTech, which is education technology, is increasing too because of the pandemic. So many EdTech companies are kind of like, getting into action. But IoT, we saw it as a second after fintech since a few years ago. Has been strong always.
There is another question from Amir.
Yeah.
It's about the primary. Should we complete the Scaleup Bootcamp and soft landing program in the same year?
Yeah, certainly. You complete the Scaleup Bootcamp and the soft landing program in the same year. Those two are completed in 3 months normally for the companies that enter into the programs. So if we have a strong facts to present to angels, can't you just advise us to get in contact with angels without taking the courses? No, no, we don't make introduction to angels just like that, Amir. Sorry. We unfortunately, the network really relies on our due diligence in order to make introductions, and we just cannot make introductions like that. It's a very sensitive, type of connections, and we have to make sure that the company we are introducing is in good shape. So there is, you can try to approach to other people here, but I see very unlikely that you are going to get introduced just because, it doesn't work like that. You have to provide a real case for to make an introduction, and people have to trust your business and have to see that you actually have some potential for that, and to do that it requires a lot of work from who is doing the due diligence in order to make those introductions. So I'm not sure if there is any other questions so far. Perhaps again, if you after watching this webinar, if you have more questions or more comments, please just send us an email to contact@latamstartups.org. We are happy to take any other questions you may have or any other comment. We are going to send the recordings of all the sessions today, and we are hoping that you got the information that you needed during the online bootcamp that we are doing today. Certainly, there are several more topics that, as startups, you need to address. That's why we have the Scaleup Bootcamp. But we like to have this online bootcamp with essentials because we know that these are the most common questions from startups. So we hope that you enjoy the sessions. I hope that you connect with our mentors in some point and with the institutions that are helping today. Again, thank you to OCLO, to Bright Immigration from Peru, City of Toronto, and Startup Here Toronto. I'm hoping to see you in any other webinar or bootcamp online. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.